because right here in Tokyo and at the stadium, I think I started my debut. And you have to understand that my legacy is a new legacy for me, knowing that I came back at the same place and to start a new chapter.
A young sprinter from Jamaica just shocked the world, and he did it with the fastest man in history watching. This wasn't just a race, it was a takeover. In one of the most exciting 100-meter races anyone has seen in years, 24-year-old Jamaican Oblique Seville ran past some of the best sprinters on the planet. He beat Noah Lyles, Kishane Thompson, and more, and made it look easy. It was a night the world wouldn't forget, humid, electric, and filled with anticipation inside Tokyo's National Stadium. But as the world's fastest men lined up for the 100-meter final at the 2025 World Athletics Championships, few could have predicted what was about to unfold. While Lyles stretched and performed for the cameras and Thompson bounced in confidence, it was the quiet Jamaican Oblique Seville who would walk away not just with gold, but with a legacy-defining moment. For years, Seville had been the nearly man. Fourth in the 2022 and 2023 World Championships, injured in the Olympic final in Paris, he had come close again and again, only to see the podium just slip out of reach. But this time was different. This time, Seville wasn't chasing anyone. He was the one to beat, and he did just that, destroying the field with a personal best of 9.77 seconds, the fastest time of his life, and enough to bring the global 100 meters title back to Jamaica for the first time since Usain Bolt in 2016. Watching from a VIP box, Bolt himself cheered wildly, roaring with pride as Seville tore past his rivals and into history. For Thompson, the pre-race favorite and fastest man of the season with a 9.75, it was a painful defeat. He had led for most of the race, his power undeniable, but his form faltered in the final meters. That's when Seville pounced, smooth, composed, and deadly. Thompson crossed second in 9.82. Lyles, ever the showman, celebrated a bronze like it was gold after clocking 9.89, but the night belonged to Jamaica. Seville's journey to this moment started years ago. At age 10, he told his mother he wanted to be trained by Usain Bolt's legendary coach, Glen Mills. That dream came true when he joined the Racers Track Club, and under Mills's guidance, Seville transformed from a promising youth into a world champion. The pressure of past near misses, injuries, and doubt forged his mental strength. Track and field is both mental and physical, Seville said after the race. But to be honest, I think I've mastered the mental part of it. It wasn't always this way. In Budapest in 2023, Seville finished fourth with the same time, 9.88, as the silver and bronze medalists. At the 2024 Olympics in Paris, he won his semi-final with a blistering 9.81, only to pull up last in the final due to a hamstring injury. Questions swirled about whether he had what it took to close. That all ended in Tokyo. Finishing strong in the last 30 to 40 meters was something I was struggling with the whole season, Oblique said. But now I have perfected it, and I was confident that if I could do it in the final, I would win. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. The race felt like something out of a movie, full of surprises, drama, and big moments. A false start disqualified Letsile Tebogo, the Olympic 200-meter champ. Kenny Bednarek, who'd matched Thompson's time in the semis, stumbled out of the blocks and never recovered. And Lyles, who'd hyped himself as being in the best shape of his life, found himself outpaced when it mattered most. He may still be a threat in the 200 meters, but over the shorter distance, the crown now sits firmly on Jamaican soil. Even leading up to the championships, Seville had quietly been building momentum. In June, he clocked 9.82 to beat Lyles at the Racers Grand Prix. In July, he won in London with 9.86, once again ahead of Lyles and Tebogo. In August, he repeated the feat in Lausanne, running 9.87 in rainy conditions where no one else even broke 10 seconds. But despite all these wins, he arrived in Tokyo overshadowed by louder names. That didn't last long. As the stadium erupted and Jamaican fans roared, Seville tore open his jersey and pounded his chest. It was raw emotion. Years of frustration turned into triumph. Bolt, fists in the air, mirrored the celebration. "It's just a tremendous feeling to compete in front of Usain here in Tokyo," Seville said. "His coach is my coach. I've proven in front of him that I'm a champion, and I'm proud of that. For Thompson, it was a case of what could have been. Despite looking every bit like Bolt's successor all season, his form unraveled under pressure. I wanted to win, he admitted. But when it came to the last 5 meters, I saw Oblique moving. And then I was like, oh! Noah Lyles, ever the entertainer, was all smiles despite finishing third. He blamed an injury earlier in the season for his reduced performance, saying, "Getting injured in the middle of the season was not part of my plan." Unfortunately, it made me rush a lot of things. I came to the World Championships with only 4 races over 100 meters under my belt. Even in the final, I was able to run my season's best, and I will never be disappointed with that. But for all of Lyles' charisma, this night belonged to a different kind of star, a man who had waited, failed, trained, and finally struck gold. And what made the moment even sweeter, the last Jamaican to win this title was Bolt in 2016, and now his protege had done the same. For Jamaica, this wasn't just a win, it was a resurgence. The island that gave us sprinting legends was once again back on top, and the man leading the charge isn't flashy. He's not a trash talker. He's a quiet storm who let his feet do the talking. Born in 2001, Oblique Seville's career has been a steady climb. From winning Carifta Gold in 2019 to making semis at the Tokyo Olympics, his trajectory was clear. Even through the setbacks of the pandemic and injuries, he continued to rise. In 2024, he dropped his 200-meter time to 19.96 and won key races across the US and Europe. Still, many doubted if he could deliver when it truly mattered. Tokyo answered that question. In a final where every eye was on Lyles and Thompson, Seville struck with precision. He didn't win by luck. He didn't win by mistake. He won because he was the best man on the track. As the Jamaican flag wrapped around his shoulders and the anthem played, Seville stood tall, 5 feet 7 inches, but every bit the giant in the world of sprinting. "I've proved that I am a true competitor," he said. "Now, more gold medals." And judging by what we saw in Tokyo, this Jamaican might just be getting started, because when the world was watching, Oblique Seville delivered.
It's a decent start by Lyles, but not a brilliant one. Thompson's in the driving seat here, but watch Seville on the near side. It's ever so close. Seville from Thompson.
Oblique Seville just shocked the world, running 9.77 to take gold in the 100 meters, leaving Noah Lyles behind. But the way he won left the world asking, how did he do it? There are moments in sport that don't just happen, they shift the balance of power. September 14th, 2025 in Tokyo was one of those nights. The men's 100-meter final wasn't just another sprint. It was the race that decided who owned sprinting's biggest crown and whether Jamaica still belongs at the summit of world athletics. Seville's run was more than fast. It was history echoing, belief returning, and a new champion being born. The men's 100 meters had been waiting for this moment. Since Bolt's retirement, Jamaica hadn't seen a world champion in the blue ribbon event. Nearly 10 years of near misses, heartbreaks, and rivals celebrating. The US, Africa, Europe, and other nations had taken turns at the top, but Jamaica, they were searching, waiting for the next man to rise. On this night, that wait ended. Oblique Seville wasn't a stranger to the spotlight. He'd been on the edge for years. 2 fourth-place finishes at the World Championships in 2022 and 2023. A crushing moment in Paris 2024 when injury ruined his shot at Olympic glory. To some, he was always the man who came close but never broke through. That reputation ended the moment the clock stopped at 9.77. What makes Seville's journey so powerful is that it wasn't smooth. He had raw talent but had to sharpen it. His early career was marked by promise, then frustration. Training under Glen Mills, the legendary coach who guided Usain Bolt, meant expectations were sky high. Every race, every slip-up was judged. But Seville stayed the course. He battled through injuries, doubts, and the pressure of being called the next Bolt. And finally, in Tokyo, he showed he wasn't the next anything. He was the first Oblique Seville. The final itself was electric. As the runners lined up, the tension in the stadium was thick. Kishane Thompson, Jamaica's other powerhouse, was seen as the favorite after running world-leading times earlier in the season. Noah Lyles, the American superstar, was confident he could add another gold to his collection. Seville stood calm, almost expressionless, as though he'd been preparing for this exact moment his entire life. The gun went off, and instantly Thompson burst out of the blocks with a ferocious start. He exploded ahead, looking every bit the favorite. Seville, however, stayed composed, running his own race. At 30 meters, Thompson still held the edge. Lyles, a notoriously slower starter, was behind but beginning to accelerate. The crowd roared, sensing a showdown was coming. Then came the shift. Around the 50-meter mark, Seville's stride lengthened, his shoulders relaxed, and his speed didn't just build, it looked effortless. Where others tensed, Seville seemed to glide. Thompson was still ahead, but not for long. With every step, Seville ate into the gap, his form smooth, his power undeniable. By 80 meters, the stadium could feel it. Seville was coming. The last 20 meters were pure poetry. Seville surged past Thompson, his body under perfect control, his face calm as if the gold was already his. Noah Lyles tried to close from behind, but it was too late. Seville leaned at the line, stopped the clock at 9.77, and delivered the biggest statement in sprinting since Bolt's retirement. The scoreboard confirmed it. Oblique Seville, world champion. Kishane Thompson finished second in 9.82, still one of the fastest times of his career, but overshadowed by Seville's brilliance. Noah Lyles managed bronze in 9.89, a season's best, yet not enough to stop Jamaica's 1-2 dominance. At that moment, the stadium erupted. Flags waved, fans screamed, and the world knew. Jamaica was back. But why does 9.77 matter so much? For one, it's Seville's personal best, a time that puts him among the fastest men in history. It's not just winning, it's winning with a mark that demands respect. It also showed growth. In the past, Seville's weakness was the closing stages. He'd often fade when it mattered most. In Tokyo, that flaw became his strength. He finished stronger than anyone, running through the line with authority. And let's not forget the symbolism. This was Jamaica's first men's 100 meters world title since Bolt. Nearly a decade of searching ended in less than 10 seconds. The drought was over and a new era had begun. Bolt himself, watching from the stands, stood and applauded. It felt like a passing of the torch, not officially, but emotionally. The island that gave the world a legend has now given it another champion. Of course, rivals were part of the story too. Kishane Thompson was brilliant and could easily have been champion on another day. His start was phenomenal, his drive powerful, but he lost composure in the final strides. He'll be back, hungrier than ever. Noah Lyles, always the showman, showed he's still world class. His bronze wasn't a failure, it was a reminder that he remains a force. But this night belonged to Seville. The bigger picture is Jamaica's sprint culture. For years, people doubted whether the nation could sustain its dominance without Bolt. The answer came in the form of a gold and silver sweep. Jamaica isn't just back. They're deep, stacked, and ready to rule again. This performance wasn't lucky. It was the product of coaching, discipline, and a culture that breeds speed. For Seville personally, this win rewrites his legacy. No longer the runner who almost made it, he's now the man who delivered when it mattered most. It validates every painful training session, every injury rehab, every doubt he pushed through. Winning in front of Bolt must have carried extra weight. To do it under the guidance of Glen Mills only strengthens the symbolism. It's not just about the medal, it's about identity. Seville has stepped into the role of Jamaica's new sprint leader. What comes next will be just as fascinating. A world title changes everything. Seville will now face pressure like never before. Every race will be scrutinized. Rivals will study him, looking for weaknesses. The media will chase him. The expectation isn't just to win, it's to dominate. Can he stay healthy? Can he repeat the calm brilliance of Tokyo? Can he lower that 9.77 even further? The answers will come in time. But one thing is clear. Seville has shifted the conversation. Before Tokyo, he was seen as talented but unproven. Now, he's the man to beat. Thompson will chase him. Lyles will chase him. Young sprinters around the world will set their sights on him. That's the price of greatness. Everyone wants your crown. Still, Seville doesn't seem like the type to crack under pressure. His Tokyo run wasn't wild or desperate, it was measured, efficient, and cool. That composure is what makes him dangerous. He doesn't just run fast, he runs smart. And that's the difference between contenders and champions. The impact of this win will ripple far beyond Tokyo. In Jamaica, kids will see Seville and believe again. Coaches will use his race as proof that patience, discipline, and hard work pay off. Sponsors will line up. His face will be everywhere. He has gone from promising to iconic in less than 10 seconds. And the rest of the world? They'll be on alert. The US will regroup, Europe will push harder, Africa will rise with new talent. But tonight, all of them are looking up at one man, Oblique Seville, the new world champion. When the cameras cut to Seville after the race, his expression was calm. No wild celebration, no theatrics, just quiet confidence. That's what made it even more powerful. He looked like he belonged, like this was always the plan. And maybe it was. In the end, the 2025 World Championships men's 100-meter wasn't just a race. It was a statement, a reminder that legends inspire, but new champions rise. Oblique Seville didn't just run 9.77, he restored belief, reignited a nation, and gave sprinting a new face to fear. The crown is back in Jamaica, and the world will be watching what Oblique Seville does next.
Every year it's gotten quicker, 157 average, 156 average, and it's amazing to think that I'm hitting a 155 on not a bad day, but the weather, not so great.
Sebastian Coe, the most respected voice in athletics, calls a 17-year-old sprinter the real deal and predicts another athlete could become the greatest of all time. Sebastian Coe just sent shockwaves through the athletics world with his latest comments, and the internet can't stop talking about it. At 68 years old, Sebastian Coe has seen it all. 2 Olympic gold medals, 9 world records, and 5 decades of watching the world's best athletes compete. When he speaks, people listen. And right now, he's saying something that has everyone's attention. Coe just made 2 massive predictions that are changing how we look at the future of athletics. The first involves Keely Hodgkinson, Britain's 800-meter Olympic champion who just went through what she calls injury hell. The second focuses on Gout Gout, a 17-year-old Australian sprinter who's already being compared to Usain Bolt. Let's start with Hodgkinson's incredible story. Just months ago, her 2025 season looked completely finished. She was sitting in a car for 8 hours, traveling to Windsor Castle to receive her MBE from the King. What should have been one of the happiest days of her life turned into a nightmare when she injured her hamstring during that long car ride. Hodgkinson was devastated. She had already dealt with hamstring problems twice before, and this felt like the final blow. The Olympic champion found herself experiencing what she calls unpredictable mood swings. Some days she'd walk into training happy and motivated. Other days her teammates knew not to even talk to her. Her coaches, Trevor Painter and Jenny Meadows, were away helping other athletes on the European circuit. They were getting reports about Hodgkinson's emotional state and knew they had to do something. Painter came up with an unusual solution. He bought her a Himalayan salt lamp that was as big as my head. Hodgkinson laughed when telling the story. But it wasn't just the lamp that saved her season. Painter also convinced Nike to pay for a full-time physiotherapist. This turned out to be the game changer. The physio discovered that Hodgkinson's hamstring problems weren't actually coming from her hamstrings at all. The real issue was her back. Hodgkinson admits she's always struggled with a tight back, but as she's gotten stronger and faster, it's put more pressure on everything else. Once they fixed the back problem, everything else started falling into place. She even put on a couple of kilograms since Paris, but instead of slowing her down, it made her more powerful. After 376 days away from competition, Hodgkinson finally returned to the track in August at the Silesia Diamond League. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. She didn't just win her first race back, she ran 1 minute, 54.74 seconds, the 9th fastest time in history and the best in the world this year. 4 days later in Lausanne, she proved it wasn't a fluke. Despite running in driving rain, she clocked 1 minute 55.69 seconds. The athletics world was stunned. How do you come back from a year-long injury and immediately run times that fast? Sebastian Coe was watching, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. When asked if Hodgkinson could become Britain's greatest ever athlete, Coe didn't hesitate. He said, "Yeah, she absolutely could." I have no doubt about that. Absolutely, for sure. She could end up at the top of the heap internationally if she goes on. But Coe didn't stop there. He went even further, praising what he called her mental toughness. "I've spoken to her enough times to know that mentally she's mahogany hard. She really is. She is absolutely committed to wanting to end her career top of the heap, and there's no reason why she shouldn't." The phrase mahogany hard immediately went viral. Coe was describing Hodgkinson's incredible mental strength, comparing her determination to one of the hardest woods in the world. Coming from someone who's seen legends like Carl Lewis, Michael Johnson, and Usain Bolt compete, this was huge praise. Coe also highlighted how smart Hodgkinson's return strategy was. Most athletes might have eased back into competition with one race. Hodgkinson chose to run twice in 4 days, testing whether she could handle the back-to-back racing required at major championships. Sebastian said, "What I thought was quite clever was doing 2 races back-to-back because what she was clearly testing was that thesis really. Did she have enough in the tank to go back-to-back? Which is what she's going to be asked to do in Tokyo. And the answer was clearly a resounding yes.